that like we do sort of like make fun of like Ohio State like students. Like one thing that Michigan students like to do is like if you see any O on sorry, that's for Ohio State, like Ohio State students, what they do when they see an M is they'll make a cross on campus. Because I've been to that campus before, so like every M that they have, they put a cross on it. Yeah, but yeah, that's for the sports culture.
Yeah.
And then Halloween's also a big thing over there. Yeah, on campus, it's very fun. Like, get to see like the diversity of the like people and like the uniform that they wear, the attire that they wear. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one is the Southeast Asian Games for UMich in 2018. The one with like the basketball picture of like people with basketball. And yeah, party culture as Rishi covered.
Yeah. And so moving on from this, similar to American culture, obviously everyone's moving to a new place. So assimilating into the culture and assimilating into studying abroad, for many of you might be the first time, I know for me it was, is a difficult and amazing thing. So Erin's going to talk to us a little bit about what it is like to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Becky. So first of all, adapting to academic life, me personally, this was a big struggle for me. Like my grades in freshman year, my parents weren't happy. So I made 2 big changes, and since then my grades have like improved exponentially. So first of all, taking discussion or tutorial sessions more seriously. I came from a pretty small high school and I went to UC Berkeley, which is like debatably the largest public school in the world. So the learning there is quite impersonal and distant. Like I've never talked to one of my professors ever. So discussion sessions are really the only time that you get to have close interaction with the people who are teaching you. So make sure you ask questions, stay engaged with the content that you're being taught. And on top of discussion sections, make sure to make use of student-run resources like tutoring or pre-exam review sessions. They helped me so much, yeah. And then secondly, I grossly underestimated how much time I'd have to spend studying outside of class. Like in high school, I'm pretty used to going to class, I'd understand it in class. Like after class, I'd do my homework and maybe read over my notes for like half an hour and call it a day. But it's not like that at uni. So I made a schedule for revision and studying outside of my lectures and doing homework. And like, so essentially I had like a class schedule and then a revision schedule. So I ended up studying a whole lot more than in my sophomore year than my freshman year, but yeah, that helped a lot. And then in terms of adapting to social life, to be fair, I went to uni with my best friend from high school, so it was a lot easier for me. But the first semester I was there, I found other international students to get that kind of sense of comfortability and relatability, because we often had shared experiences and backgrounds and even had mutual friends. So that was really great for the first semester. But honestly, I went to the US to meet different people that I wouldn't have met if I had stayed in KL, and I wanted to meet people with different opinions and backgrounds from me. So I really made it a point not to kind of confine myself to those international circles and like push out of my comfort zone to meet people that were really different from me. And it was difficult at the start, but I think it's what truly makes your American college experience special. And then kind of piggybacking off what Rishi mentioned about party life in the US, Greek life is obviously really big in the US. It was something I didn't know much about, and I'm not part of Greek life, but a lot of people do use it to adapt to social life. It's a great way to meet new people, and despite like some preconceived notions, they're actually great people. Like they're really great people in Greek life. Some of them, or a lot of them, are really smart and really driven. So yeah, that's great. But I personally didn't join it. I didn't feel the need to. It can seem like kind of an exclusive bubble, which kind of draws you to it and seems attractive. But you don't need to be part of Greek life in order to find your own community and friends. Yeah.
Thank you, Erin, for that insight. I would like to also just add on that the experiences will differ depending on where your school is, what your region. For example, JC's experience had a lot of sports culture, but if you're in somewhere UPenn where we suck at every sport, you're not going to be going to games. And so, and if you're in the city, if you're in the suburbs, that's also going to influence the kind of things you're doing socially, and also how much time you get with your professors, depending on how big your uni is. So this is our experiences, but I wouldn't say it's one set path. So I just want to say that as we move forward. The next thing that we're going to talk about is a big one for some people. I'm sure some of you may have heard of, if you say, oh, I'm going to the US for uni, they'll be like, you're going to get shot there or something like that, right? So we're just going to tackle this one. So I'm in Philadelphia, so we figured that that might be a good place to start. Philadelphia is not the most safe city in the US, let's just say that. Woo! But yeah, but I will say that the uni will have many things implemented to make sure that you are feeling safe, and also it is up to yourself. So for example, we have walking escorts. So if you're late at night, you can call a mobile number and someone will walk with you, or someone will bike alongside you, or you can take a bus around that is run by by UPenn, like at different times of the night. There are also these poles that are for emergency calling, so that is also very useful. And also, I think a lot of it is down to just personal safety, so knowing what neighborhoods are safe to walk in by yourself, and also being sensible about your safety choices. If you're late at night, don't try and save money. Maybe take that Uber instead of walking because you're in a dangerous neighborhood. Being mindful of looking left and right when you're waiting for public transport, that kind of thing. So I would like to assuage anyone's worries. I think the university will provide accordingly to how safe or how unsafe your area is, and also it is down to your own personal sense of responsibility of your safety. And I think growing up in KL is actually quite a great first step into the safety of the US, because I mean, KL also is not the safest place on earth. Obviously, it is a great place to live, but I think the vigilance that you use in KL will be really useful in the US. It's not that much different. Would you guys agree? Yeah. Okay. Would anyone like to add on to that for safety?
Yeah, I think I just want to sort of summarize the point that Rebecca made. For campus towns, usually with a huge student population, generally it's pretty safe. But the most important thing is you need to know, at least when you get there, when you get to the uni in the US, you need to know the campus security or the campus police telephone numbers, because those will be sort of your first point of contact, if there's anything on campus.
A small thing to add on, when I got there, when I got to Berkeley, there's a huge homeless issue there, and it's kind of known that they've caused issues for the student population, and the other way, likewise. But I think a really important thing for safety is kind of how you carry yourself. If you look scared and vulnerable, you will be an immediate target. But if you stand up tall, you're confident, and you're walking with a purpose, and you're not just kind of loitering around looking lost, you'll be fine, from my experience.
Okay, so we're going to move on from that, and now we're going to talk about a big part of US life, which is internships and recruitment. So the first person that we're going to jump to is Erin. Erin is a junior, which is a big year in the US for recruiting and internships. It's, so we'll just hand it over to her then.
Yeah, so I've done the CPT process 3 times, twice for an in-semester internship and once for a summer internship. I just got back, actually. And for those of you that don't know what a CPT is, it's basically the visa that you need to get in addition to your student visa that allows you to work in the US for a defined period of time. The process is you get an internship offer, and then you email your international office, and then you have to write an essay justifying why your internship is related to your major, and then from there it's pretty easy. out of the 3 internships that I've had, I will say that it's much easier, in my opinion, to get an internship during the semester, even though there are less companies hiring, though much more than you'd think. There are also much fewer students applying as well. Yeah, so if you ask any international student, getting an internship is kind of like a sore topic. Like it's just really hard. But I have a couple tips that would make it easier, I think. So firstly, I'd only apply to jobs that are at least somewhat related to your major. There's no point in going through the whole process just to get your CPT application rejected because it wasn't closely enough related to your major. Secondly, cast a wide net. I think a lot of people will tell you to only apply to jobs that you're truly passionate about and like you actually want to do, but that will kind of limit yourself to a handful of companies or positions. And because getting an internship in the US is so hard, I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket and cast a wide net. For example, I applied to like 150 internships. I only heard back for like interviews from like 4. And I don't mean to scare you, but when I hear people that have only applied to 10 internships and they're like, oh, I'm just waiting to hear back, that really worries me. My third tip, apply early. It's much easier to get an interview or the job itself if you apply early. And when I say early, I mean as early as the summer before. But on the other hand, I would say it's never too late to apply. Like I have friends that got a job in like June and started 2 weeks later. So don't be discouraged if you haven't gotten your internship by March. Like there's still plenty of time. Number 4, I would really cold email and cold message on LinkedIn. Like I can't emphasize enough the power behind that. Like I know several people that have gotten really good internships just from having a good conversation with someone that has a little bit of power in the company and really liked them. So yeah, networking in the US especially is really, really important. And lastly, I would apply to companies that aren't headquartered in the US. A lot of companies, for example, like Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, they'll write on their job posting, like, we do not accept international students. And I have never found this to be the case with companies that are headquartered outside of the US. For example, this past summer, I interned at Schroders, which is a British asset management firm. And me being an international student was like, not at all impeding on my application, and in fact they told me that it added value to my application. So I would do some research on like what companies have historically had strong percentages in hiring international students.
Rishi, JC, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I really like what you said about the networking part of it. I think in addition to cold messaging and cold emailing, etc., also make sure to use the tools on LinkedIn. Like look at your university's page, find alumni from your university that have that are working for the company that you want to intern for, and reach out to them and talk to them. Like in an ideal scenario, you might get a referral, who knows? But even just like getting the knowledge of what they did to get in their position, you can just try to copy and embody exactly that.
Yeah. Your university is a great resource. Like you're spending 60K a year, you might as well like use all the resources you can at the uni. Also, like just one more thing I want to add on internships. So besides doing company internships like outside of uni, I'm not sure, I can't speak about like other unis, but like for my college specifically, we do have like summer research programs available for like students. So it's considered part of like it's considered like an internship. So it's a great opportunity for you to like sort of dip your toes into seeing whether you want to do research in the future or not. It's also a great indicator to test whether you want to do a graduate degree after you're done with undergrad. Yeah.
And so similar to internships, we also have on-campus jobs, which are a little bit different, but also another great avenue to get involved in your university and obviously earn a bit of money. So the first, I mean, JC and Rishi are really well versed in this. I think currently 3 of us have on-campus jobs. I mean, JC obviously graduated, but Rishi and I have on-campus jobs right now, and it's been really rewarding for us. But JC and Rishi are very decorated in this field, so I'm gonna pass it over to them.
All right. So for me, on-campus jobs were a great way for me to like fund the things that I want to do in the US, especially for traveling, which we are going to cover in the next section. But my personal experience with working on campus in UMich was I worked almost like 10 different jobs throughout my 4 years in UMich. But most of my like the main highlight would be me working in a dining hall on campus. So I was working for 3.5 years in a law student dining hall, and it was I worked like I did few different tasks while I was there. So mainly I was a student coordinator where I was like coordinating like my colleagues on like the tasks they have to do for each shift, and then I was the chef's assistant. I did some dishwashing, although it's not really manual labor. You have a proper dishwasher. It's more about like just like rinsing the dishes and like just like throwing them into the machine. And for me, like the job, I would call like that place, this dining hall, like my second home in Ann Arbor, because like I spent most of my time there, as well as like I met some great people there, met some great friends. It was also a way for me to like sort of escape from like my main life in Ann Arbor, which is like being in mechanical engineering. So it was a way for me to meet like undergrads from like different doing different fields of studies, and yeah, just a way to socialize as well. The other jobs that I've done are mostly are more academic in nature, so sort of like things like learning assistant. So I was a learning assistant for a semester for one of the physics classes in Michigan. So my main task there was I would like coach students with their homework assignments, and then like maybe just like becoming a tutor for like that class. And then some of the more menial jobs would be like grader, like homework grading for also for one of physics classes. And then I was a proctor, or if you're more familiar with the term, invigilator for like exams for some of the physics classes. Yeah, and they pay quite well, like at least $11, at least in UMich. Yeah.
Depending on what kind of job you have, and depending on how involved the pay will differ. But you can, obviously, there's so many jobs on campus, you can pick it depending on how much time you want to give up to this job, and also how involved you want to be. I'm going to hand over to Rishi, who's also going to talk about his on-campus jobs.
Yeah, pretty similar stuff to JC. I don't have any nice pictures like these, but my jobs on campus at the moment, I have 3. I work at the post office, I work at the gym, at the desk, and I work as a bartender. And I would say if you can make the time for it, I definitely recommend working an on-campus job. It's what's funded all of my travels, which is what we're going to talk about next. That's how I fund it. It's what I use to get a meal off campus. I make about $440 a month, which is not much, but then for things like this, it is like good. You know, you can afford your flight, for example. At your initial stages of university, it could also be useful to put on your resume. For example, if you're doing something like a tutoring or proctoring or something like that, it is they are skills that are useful to have. And if you have work study, those jobs are very low effort. And
can you briefly explain what a work study is for people that don't know?
so in many financial aid packages or scholarship packages, they might you could get jobs where you're not really like committing yourself to the work itself. Like at the gym, I'm literally sitting at the desk. I can do my homework and I'm getting paid for it. Those kind of jobs are like, you know, they don't take away from your studies and other commitments. So because you don't want to overcommit to jobs. At the end of the day, the education is the most important part. And one last thing I'll mention is that as international students, there's a 20-hour-a-week limit. You cannot exceed that. It's a risk of deportation, literally. So you have to stick under 20 hours of work a week.
Except for summer breaks when you can double that. Yeah.
Great insight. We're going to move on to traveling around the US. I think I can speak personally, but I'm sure this resonates with you guys. I did not realize how big the US was and just how much traveling can be done, and also how affordable traveling can be. Obviously, we use our on-campus jobs to fund that, but it really does not have to be an expensive endeavor at all. So we're going to run through some pictures quickly. Rishi and I are high school mates, so we did a little trip to New York, and that was so fun. Rishi flew there from North Carolina, where Davidson is, and I took the train for $6. So the train system can be a great way to get around, and flights can be affordable when you have flash sales, when you take domestic airlines, when you take travel that is not as flexible, it can be really affordable. Would anyone like to take the floor to further talk about their travel?
Well, those are some very nice pictures all over the US on the board. So, as Rebecca said, she took the train. It was only $6. That's something, you can find the cheapest way to get there. There's good bus systems. There's good train systems. I took Spirit Airlines, which is a very, very cheap budget airline. Sometimes it doesn't take off. It just gets canceled. But luckily, mine ended up going. I only paid, one way was $30, which is really a very good price for a flight. If you know any friends that live in the area, any families, if you have any over there, then that would be really useful. You can ask them. In my experience, they're very hospitable. They'll be willing to host you for a week plus. So that's how I went to random places. There's people I knew that were in Kentucky. That's a random state, and there were people there. So you'll find a way. There's a lot of ways to not make travel expensive.
Yeah. Adding on to random places, one of my best friends is from the Amish countryside. So one of those pictures there is from the Amish countryside, which I obviously would never have imagined I'd be traveling to, living in KL. But there I was, probably the first Malaysian in the Amish countryside, but yeah.
Represent.
And here are some of JC's travels. Do you want to talk about this, JC?
Yeah, before that, I just want to add on to Rishi about Spirit Airlines. So if you think AirAsia is bad, Spirit's worse. I'm just gonna put that out right. It's worse. Okay. Also, I just want to highlight the point that Rebecca made about how big US is. For context, the state of Texas is bigger than Sabah and Sarawak combined. Shout out to Suping for highlighting how big Texas is. And for our Peninsular Malaysian friends, Texas is 6 times larger than the whole of Peninsular Malaysia, just the one state alone. So that should give you the context of how big US is, with 50 states combined. As for my own travel experiences, I've done a fair mix of metro areas, big cities, as well as very rural but very scenic areas, especially national parks. It's for me the travel experience in US is interesting. That a lot of driving, because you have to one of the affordable ways to travel around is through driving if it's practical. Obviously, I wouldn't drive from New York to LA. That's at least a 2 or 3 day drive. No, please don't do that. Just take a flight. But because of the diversity of the climate as well as the nature across US, ranging from glaciers in Alaska, in cold places like Alaska, until Florida, where you have swamps, you can see alligators. Yeah, I would say national state parks are a must visit places in the US. And then as for metro areas, I've been to Chicago, been to New York, actually 5 times in New York, East Coast, West Coast. Yeah, and just go to all those iconic places. You have only 4 years there. For me, I didn't really intend on staying in the US, so that was my time to work hard and travel hard. Yeah.
4 years will fly by, so definitely make the most of that. And also, I think Rishi's tip about living with your friends, or at least staying with them, is such a great way to travel, because Americans are super friendly.
Yeah, both of us stayed with different friends in New York when we visited.
Yeah. And finally, we have our extracurriculars. This is a huge part of US life. I didn't realize how big it would be, and probably the main differentiator from the UK, which is maybe somewhere that you guys are also considering. I think extracurriculars are done so well in the US, and so I'm going to hand over to Erin to talk about her extracurriculars first.
Yeah, thank you, Becky. Yeah, extracurriculars in the US is huge. Like, if any of you guys have watched Pitch Perfect, and there's the scene of like her walking down some like a street and everyone's like flyering her with the different clubs, it's exactly like that. Like, it's not exaggerated at all. I can't reiterate enough how important extracurriculars are for finding your community, just gaining work experience and beefing up your resume. So first of all, I am in a consulting club, and if you are looking to get into marketing or business, anything business related, or you're just curious about that kind of industry, join a consulting club. Like, for example, my first semester in a consulting club, we did a project with LinkedIn. So as literally a freshman, I could put LinkedIn on my resume. Like, there's no other way you'd be able to do that. And on top of that, you're doing a project every semester. So on your resume, if you're in a consulting club for all 4 years, it looks like you've literally had 4 semester-long internships with a really good company. I would also join non-professional or fun clubs. This is something that I didn't do and I strongly regret. And it's a great way to maintain your hobbies, which in my opinion was really, really hard to do in college. Like, before in high school, I was really active in sports, and now I don't play a single sport, and it's really sad, honestly. It's a great way to meet new friends. And people who share similar interests to you. So yeah, join a fun club for sure. And if there isn't a club that you think appeals to you, don't be afraid to start your own club. I did that and it was great.
So speaking of fun clubs, Erin is very good at her pre-professional club, so I left that to her. I did try to carry on my hobbies there, and it was a great outlet. I joined Club Swim, which allowed me to go to Indiana to still compete, like on a club level, which was great. And I also joined the orchestra, which is also such a great way to make community. I think the third thing that I really want to emphasize is volunteering. Volunteering is a great outlet in the US that they really appreciate. And so up there, it might be a bit confusing why there's a picture of someone graduating there, but that is one of my students from a refugee center. And so I tutored her for in her final year as she was applying to college, and she has a full ride scholarship to Drexel now, so I'm very proud of her. But yeah, so it's a great way to meet new people and get integrated with the community. So I'm very well versed with West Philly now, having commuted there a lot and made friends with like all the people I'm tutoring. And so yeah, and I get fed very well as well there as well. So it is a great outlet, and extracurriculars is an amazing thing. JC, Rishi, do you want to add anything about extracurriculars?
Yeah, for me, my extracurricular experience had mostly been related to like community kind of like extracurricular clubs. Like I definitely joined the Michigan Malaysian Students Association, where if you have a big Malaysian population in your college, it will be fun because like we basically do a lot of like events together, like festivities, Chinese New Year, Deepavali, Hari Raya, you name it. We have events for those. And then every year, so for our tradition, we have what we call Malaysian Cultural Night, and that's where we sort of like promote the Malaysian culture to like the people there, like the campus students, like as part of our like sort of like international student initiative. I don't remember the name, but something like that. So that's one. And the second club that I joined was an honor society called Pi Tau Sigma. So it's not really, an honor society is not really like Greek life in the sense that there's heavy involvement of like being in a society, but it's more of like a place where like similar-minded people in terms of like academics can come together and sort of like do like charity work or like do some advisory work for like students in that in those disciplines. So for example, like Pi Tau Sigma it's an honor society for mechanical engineering students in the US. And what we did were we had free food every Wednesday. So every Wednesday in the semester, every Wednesday is when our meetings were held. And there's always free food, so that's one of the incentives I joined. And actually, that's why I wrote in my personal statement to join that club, because it's free food. But when I was in there, like the activities that we did was we had speaker sessions. So like out of like normal mechanical engineering classes, so we had like professors coming in, like just like talking about like a topic that's not related to like our classes. And then we did like student advising on like the classes that they want to take, or like what kind of like career path they want to do. And then like internship opportunities that we share to them. And then as well as just like socializing, yeah.
Thank you for wrapping that up. So JC took it home for us, and we are done with the speaking portion. We're going to hand it over to Asif, who's going to start. Oh.
All right, guys. If you have questions, Slido right here, or you guys can physically and verbally ask the questions. I don't see no phones scanning the QR code, so please scan the QR code, guys. Any questions from the floor? Questions, guys? All right, I'm gonna go from the Slido. Gun violence and racism are two large deterrents for students to apply to the US. To what extent is this true, and have you had any personal experiences yourselves?
Who would like to start this lovely question?
I can talk about this.
Okay.
So, I've been in the US only for a year, but I've been all over the place to states that have different gun laws. And I've only seen a gun once, and it was at like my friend's ranch. Like, you don't see it anywhere else. It's not like, you don't see it. Like, it's just a thing that we know because we see it on the news, of course. Like, that's what we hear every week, oh, school shooting, stuff like that. But it's not as prominent as you would think when you actually go there. Racism, it obviously does exist. My personal experience is actually less racism than I've experienced in other countries. So, take that, as you will.
I think adding to that, I think we should make a distinction between racism and ignorance. Some people in the US are simply from really small towns and have not left the country before, and so you don't want to hold that against them. Some of them have never heard of Malaysia before, but it's a great time to just educate people and also be educated on places in the US. I'm far more educated on small town culture and that kind of thing now, and I'm a lot more open. So I think it also depends on your mindset. If you approach it with an open mind and you are willing to educate them and be educated yourself, I think it will be a great experience. I think I've experienced more of that than flat out racism. Would you guys agree? Yeah.
Yeah, bouncing out from that point, I think it's about the friends that you make. So you pick your poison, right? So if you know that person is, have that kind of behavior, you don't want to be friends with them, right? So pick your friends properly. Any questions from the floor? Or I'll just go through Slido. Okay, guys. Treat me like that. Is Greek life worth it, considering you have to pay for admission and monthly fees, right? Anybody in sororities? Are you in a friend?
No, but I have friends who are. I will say I think it might be more worth it for girls, because if you do live in the houses are beautiful. You have a private chef. Like, it's a great life. It is more expensive than frats for sure, but like comparing to friends I have in sororities, I do end up spending more with my rent and what I spend for food. I can't speak for frats. Like, yeah, no.
I have been to events run by, I did a little bit of what you call dirty rushing, which is where you do the process, but I didn't personally join a sorority. And I think it's a great way to make friends. Some schools have a formal rush process, and people simply join that to make friends and not actually commit to a sorority or a frat. And so that could be an interesting way to have meet new people. I would say as well, another thing that I never realized is that some frats and sororities, especially I guess for Penn, have a great network for recruitment. So reaching out to alumni from the frat or sorority is how some of my friends have gotten really good internships. So that is an underrated aspect of it, I guess. But it's not for everyone, but at the same time, like if it's for you, it's for you. So I would not, I don't have anything bad to say about it, to be honest.
I think you have to find out how important frats are in your university. For example, I rushed a few frats. I got an offer from Sigma Alpha Epsilon, and The thing is, like, I decided not to take it. For me, like, I have to pay, and like, the food is kind of mid, to be honest, and like, there's many reasons not to, and it's a huge time commitment, so I chose not to. And it's really not a big deal. Like, I still go for all the SAE events, I just don't pay. But in other places, like, I spent a month in Vanderbilt over the summer, and obviously all my friends over there were Vanderbilt students. They told me that over there you kind of need to be in a frat to have a good social life. So I think it's important to find out what is it like in the university you want to be in.
Just for the benefit of our audience and all of us actually, because I myself don't know what Sigma Alpha Epsilon.
It's a good frat on at Davidson.
Anything specific though?
Rishi, is it one of those nerd frats, or can you explain?
It's a party frat.
Party frat?
Yes, it is.
I will say that, so how frats and sororities work for people that don't know is that they are all over the country and they're the same ones. So there's a Sigma Alpha Epsilon at Davidson, there's also one at Penn, there's also one at Berkeley. Was there one at UMich? I don't know. Yeah. So, but they all have different reputations depending on the school itself, not on in general. So just research that if you are interested.
All right, touching on the lifestyle in the US. Somebody asked, is it easy to find halal food? Maybe JC.
Yeah. Okay. So I can speak on behalf of my friends because I know quite a lot of like Muslims in Michigan, at least from the Malaysian community. So there is an app I know. It starts with a Z. If anyone can help me with that. Like there's an app for like searching where halal places are in your. Sorry. Yeah, Zaiba. Yeah. So there's an app for it. There's always an app for something. And also like usually I would say like on campus it's fairly easy to find like halal food because like campus campus towns are fairly diverse, so they will have like a lot more like food choices as well. Yeah. And most importantly, I guess you can try to like mingle with the Muslim community in your college. I think most of the big universities have one. Yeah.
Right. I think there's an elephant in the room that we want to address. I mean, living in the US, yes, it's fun, but recently, there's a lot of things going on. So there was one question about my mom thinks the US isn't the best choice because she thinks that. Should I say this? You read it.
Oh, wow.
Don't mention anything about what, but I just say this.
Yeah, so would anyone like to talk about parent experiences with
with the current climate in the
current.
US? But
I would say that a university is one of the best places to be because there's a lot of dialogue. There are a lot of open-minded people and they are more educated than normal. Than the average US citizen. So I would say that you won't feel that kind of worry being on a university campus. It is also so good to get out of, to just experience new cultures. And the US has a lot more pros than I think it has cons. Would you guys agree? Yeah.
And to whoever wrote that question, I sympathize with you. I wasn't going to be allowed to come to the U.S. if Trump had won the last election because my mother, yeah. But I can confidently say that going to the U.S. specifically has been the best thing ever for me, professionally and personally. If I didn't go to the U.S., I would not be willingly sitting here talking to you. I'm an introvert, and the fact that I'm doing this right now, I've grown a lot in the U.S. Thank you. But yeah, I'd recommend going to the U.S. to anybody. It's such an eye-opening experience that not many people are lucky to get.
I would say if your parents are willing to let you go to an out-of-country university, the UK is not doing that much better right now. I mean, if you've seen the news. So I think anywhere in the world will have its drawbacks, and it's just about how you personally deal with that. So
I think we can wrap it up on that note, guys. So, Nia, you want to take the lead? So, give a round of applause to the panel speakers.
All right, thank you, Rebecca, Erin, Rishi, and JC for that very insightful session. Okay, let's just wait for them to take pictures. In the meantime, yeah, I'm glad that I'm not living my party in the USA life alone. Woo! Always loved hearing people's stories and also, how vibrant they all are like experiencing and how different the experiences are.
Well, Nia, it's not always about you. Finally, moving on to the last section of the panels of the day, we have Tessa Lee from UMich and Putri Sarah from UC Berkeley to guide us about choosing schools.
Test. Okay.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. So I'm Tessa and this is Sarah. And today we'll be talking all about applying to the US, part 1. So I'm currently doing computer science in the University of Michigan, class of 2027. And before that, I did the IB diploma program in Chempaka Damansara. And before that, I did IGCSEs.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. So I went through the SPM pathway, the public school pathway. So I did my high school at Tunku Husha College. Then I went to do my A-levels at College Mara Seremban. I took biology, chemistry, and mathematics. I took history for a bit, but let's not talk about that. So, and now I'm under College of Letters and Science at UC Berkeley. I'm doing, thank you. Forever grateful. So my majors are molecular and cell biology and also integrative biology. And I also have a minor. My minor is in STEM education, so I teach little kids. Very interesting. So we're so excited today. So we know that we've been hearing quite a lot. So I hope you guys push through for us. So here are the things that like our session is more on like how to choose your school. So okay, next slide. So I can hold that. Thank you. So first, as the normal Asian we are, so of course we could choose our schools by ranking. So this could be by the school ranking or the major ranking. So this definitely gives you a starting point into researching schools and knowing their requirements. And this is a great way to determine safety, match, and reach schools, which I will be explaining a bit later. So famous ranking platforms would be US News or QS Ranking. So here are some examples. Since during my A-level days, I used QS Ranking quite extensively, so this is how I used it. So when you open QS Ranking, there's you can pick if you want to look at it at a subject area level or a subject level. So subject area is broader than like subject. Subject is like your major, basically. So this is an example for subject area ranking. So this, I just took it off from QS. So this is for engineering and technology. If you guys don't know the logos, you guys can like reach out to me later. I don't want to wrap it out. I can wrap it out, but it's okay. Like MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, Harvard, Caltech, Georgia Tech, okay, it's okay. So this is also another subject area, which is arts and humanities. You can see we have NYU, we have Yale, we have UChicago, and this is for life sciences and medicine. So the famous ones are like UCSF for medicine. So, and this is an example for subject ranking, which is a more niche. So this is for economics and finance, because a lot of Malaysians take economy and finance. And this is also a high demand major, which is computer science for us. So next, how to choose your schools. Second is by curriculum. So of course, if you want to apply to schools, it's preferably you know what curriculum they give you. So there are two types of curriculum that the US education gives, which is core curriculum and open curriculum. So what's core curriculum? So core curriculum requires a student to complete a set of common courses across various disciplines to ensure a well-rounded education. So I can give an example, because I am a very STEM-centered student. So if I don't have a core curriculum, I would be in the lab 24/7. But I also do take English history, I also do take liberal arts, I also take Italian studies and all, just to complete other various disciplines. And these are required by my college. So for an open curriculum, it allows the student to have significant flexibility in choosing their courses. So if I'm a STEM student, I can only take I can like choose only STEM subjects. Like I have a more personalized and self-directed learning experience. So these are just some examples of core and open curriculum universities. Usually, universities are usually core. That's what I have to say. Moving on to Tessa.
So now I'll talk a bit about your types of schools. First, we've got big schools and small schools. So big schools have around 15,000 students, and small schools have 5,000. So it's a really big difference, and there's kind of a scope there because 5,000 and 15,000 makes a big difference. So over there, you can see how many people there are at the football game. So big schools tend to have a really big sports culture. So you've got football games every weekend, hockey, basketball, ice hockey, lacrosse. You've got a game to go to like every week, and you'll never not have something to go to. There'll always be events, like in the middle there's a picture of a frat or sorority party. So Greek life is also a big thing in big schools. Big schools also tend to offer more majors. So if you're undecided or you want a double major or combine a minor to your major, there's a higher chance that your school will offer that major-minor combination program that you're looking for, so you won't have to transfer out to get what you're looking for. Big schools also have bigger classes, so you can have around 500 people in your lecture. That can make it really competitive and overwhelming, but all you have to do is go to office hours and, like was mentioned earlier, go to discussion sections and really get to know your professors when you meet them in office hours. Another thing about big schools is that they've got plenty of clubs and organizations. For example, in UMich, where I go, they've got a squirrel feeding club and an anti-squirrel feeding club. So that's the kind of variety you get. Big schools also tend to have more buildings and places you can go to study. So if you like variety, then big school might be for you. Small schools, on the other hand, with 5,000 people, they've got a much better student-to-faculty ratio. You get more personalized advising, teaching, coaching from your lecturers and researchers. Whoever you can talk to, they're really happy to help you out, basically. They can offer training and internships, opportunities personalized to you because they really get to know your path. And you just get a lot more advising. However, these opportunities aren't limited to small schools because you can still find them in big schools as long as you kind of just search for them. Okay, next, two more types of schools. You've got public and private. So public schools tend to be funded by the state government, so in-state tuition is a lot cheaper. Whereas private schools are privately owned, so they've got higher tuition rates, but they've got more opportunities for aid for out-of-state students and international students, which is us. Public schools, on the other hand, in-state students have much cheaper tuition, but they've got less opportunities for aid, financial aid, scholarships, all those things. There's a lot less for international students. And because of the lower in-state tuition, that's why you get a lot more in-state students in your school. Whereas in private universities, they have them from like all over the United States. You get a much wider variety of students there. So public schools have a lot more students per class, especially your introductory like readout courses. So those are competitive, overwhelming, whereas private schools, it's like a small school, not necessarily a small school, but you won't have as many people in your classes. Private schools also have well-funded facilities, and they're good at what they're good at, whereas public schools get their research and funding, and there's always places you can work at, or you can get lots of undergrad research opportunities if that's what you're looking for, because at a public school, they've got research funding, and there's a lot more graduate students who are researching, so you've got more research opportunities for you as an undergrad. There are three more types of schools we'll cover today. That's community college, liberal arts colleges, or LACs, and research universities. So community colleges are 2-year programs, and they end in an Associate of Art or an Associates of Science instead of the bachelor's you get in university. So they tend to be much cheaper, and they've got lower admissions requirements. So they cost like $10,000 a year instead of the $50,000 a year you pay at university. So it's only 2 years. You go there, you earn academic credit, and after your 2 years are done, you just transfer over to a big school, like a proper university. And in those 2 years, sometimes they've got schools, especially in California, around UCLA or UC Berkeley, they've got transfer admission guarantees. So once you meet some transfer admission requirements, you're basically guaranteed admission to those schools. So just check out those schools around the area who have transfer admission guarantees for those schools. Next is liberal arts colleges, or we call them LACs because that's kind of long. They focus on liberal arts education. That's like how to think, how to formulate compelling arguments, how to communicate well, and how to really get your point across. it's focused on things like history, sociology, philosophy. That's your education that you get. You don't do normal things like science or math there. And liberal arts colleges tend to be smaller. You've got Williams, Claremont McKenna. Those tend to be smaller schools. You get a closer, tight, family-knit environment. And lastly, we've got research universities. So these universities are really big on R&D. They've got extensive funding, plenty of research fellows there. They've got a significant research output. That's a lot of masters and doctoral students there as well. And they also offer masters and graduate programs. So they also offer, for undergrads, you can do, instead of doing 4 years of undergrad plus another 2 years of masters, they've got accelerated programs where you can do it all in 5 years. So that's a good option if you're looking to get a master's and you want to get it faster so you don't have to pay as much tuition because it is expensive. So after you pick this type of school, the next thing you want to think about is where you want to go. Since you'll be there for like 3 to 4 years, it's going to be your home for a while, and you better love where you're going to be. So your geographical location, your weather, how close you are to the city, they all make a difference, and you live in Malaysia. So when you're in the cold and the dry, you're really going to feel it, and seasonal depression is real, and you don't realize it until the sun comes out again. So I am over there in Michigan where it's cold and dreaded, whereas Sarah is in California where it's sunny, occasionally rainy, but mostly sunny. You've got Seattle, Washington on the top right, which is notorious for being rainy, and then your whole yellow and orange side, which is like hot, dry, sunny climate. Once you pick your area, you also need to think about whether you want a rural, suburban, or urban area. So you've got rural schools like Dartmouth, where there's just like school and nothing else for quite a while. Then you've got Claremont McKenna and UND. Those things are like, you can see the mountains from your campus, but you also got streets and stores nearby. Then you've got UCLA, UC Berkeley, UPenn. Those are more close to city centers like LA, SF, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. So it's not that far. You can go to the city whenever you want, but you also get the wilderness and things to enjoy. And lastly, you've got NYU, which is literally in the city, and you do not get more city than that. So if you love the city, then NYU would be for you. But it is hectic. Since you're going to be there for 3 to 4 years, not only do you have to love the location, but you also want to get a feel for the place before you go, get to know what the people are like, get to know what the place is like, and some really useful ways to do that is to follow people who have Instagram accounts or TikTok accounts or day in the life videos on YouTube, because they can they can give you a feel of what it is like to live there. There's also Education USA Malaysia on Instagram, and they've got highlights from students who are in the US who have done takeovers. While US students can always go visit the college, they've got open days, we can't really do that. So our alternatives are to go for virtual tours, visit the website, and sign up for mailing lists. And of course, go watch your videos on their day in the lives, just to see what the college feel is like, to see how you like it and whether you can really see yourself going there. Another thing to consider is how much you're going to be paying for tuition. Because like I talked about earlier, you've got public and private schools. Your public schools tend to cost slightly less, but there are fewer opportunities for aid, whereas private schools cost more, but you've also got a higher chance of getting aid, financial aid, scholarships, all those things are there, and they're more prevalent in private schools because they have more funding from your tuition. There are also program-specific costs, like engineering and medicine may cost a lot more than business, so not only do you need to check the price on whether it's a price for in-state, out-of-state, or international students, you also want to make sure that you check the cost for the specific program that you'll be pursuing. So usually in the US, your first year, you're going to be undecided, but you'll still be undecided in like a specific college. So you want to see the tuition for that and the tuition for whatever major you decide to major in. Once you think about what you're going to do and where you're going to go, you also need to know when to apply. So this is the overall application timeline. You're going to want to apply, you start the year before you plan to go to college, So applications open in August, like they basically just open. You want to take your standardized tests, SAT, ACT, IELTS. You want to have your results as soon as possible because the school usually requires them by December. And it takes a while for the results to get processed and everything, so you want to make sure the school can get it before they need it. So October is a good guideline to have all your tests done by then. So we've got two different application cycles. There's early and there's regular. So Sarah will cover that later, but basically early will be due in November, and then you will get your results earlier than in May. So you get your results in January instead of the regular where you get your results in May. So if you apply early, most of your applications are going to be due in the month of November, whereas if you apply regular, they start in November, but some of them go all the way up to January. So we've got University of Washington in Seattle, that's November 15. Most of the universities of California, which is UCLA, UC Berkeley, UCSD, all of those have their own deadline on November 30th. And then the rest of the schools, most of them are between January 1st to January 5th. So make sure you check what the deadline is for your school, because they do vary, and you want to make sure you get your application in so you don't have to take a gap year. Once you get your application in, your results should come out mid-March to mid-April, and then you have to commit to your school by May, and then your school will start the following August.
All right, so hopefully, I think some of you guys are familiar with all of these jargons for applications, but I think it's best for us to go through it. So EAED, so we're going to do EAED, UC, and regular. So EAED, so EA is early action, ED is early decision, and I will explain the pros and cons too after this. So these are for Common App, Coalition, MIT, Georgetown, and other special university portals. So this is a time where the schools you are really considering enrolling to, this is likely the time where you apply to it. So there are usually smaller applicant pools for this time. So for UC, so there's no special name for UC application, we just call them UC application. So this applies to all 9 University of California schools. I'm under UC application, so I did for UC Berkeley, but you can also do for UCLA, UCI, UCR, UCSD, UCSB, UC Davis, and all of those. So the special thing about UC application is that you only need one application to all schools. So this is somehow like the UK, UCAS, where you do one application and you apply to all 5 schools. But this, you can do one application and you can apply to all 9 schools for UC application. But the catch is the application fees are separated. So if I'm not mistaken, UC Berkeley has an $80 application fee. So if you want to apply to UC Berkeley, you have to pay an $80 application fee. And if you want to apply to UCLA too, then it's 80 and another 80. So it's 160, but you only do the application once. So we call UC application a single application, so there's no early action, early decision where you can apply at 2 timelines. So last but not least is the regular. So regular is basically just an extension of EA and ED. So these are for the Common App, Coalition schools, and also MIT, Georgetown, etc. So this is the last application cycle date. So like Tessa said, if you don't want to take a gap year, you must apply to all the schools in your consideration during regular decision. And they usually have bigger applicant pools. So let's go into early action and early decision. So, okay, this is a bit confusing. It was still confusing for me when I was even when I finished applying. So let me just explain it slowly. So for early action, so let's go. So the core of early action is that it is a non-binding contract. So what does a non-binding mean? You are not binded to the school. So let's say the school, you apply for early action and you get an offer in December, you can still say no to the offer. You can say yes or you can say no. So definitely this gives a flexible application, so you can still apply to other schools and still consider your choices. And the pros is also that you get early notification on decisions because you're getting it in December, a whole year before you want to commit. So the cons is early deadline. So of course, because you're applying it in November and October, and less senior year performance. What do I mean by this is if you have a significant improvement during a senior year, it won't be as looked at as much because you're applying early and you're applying using the year before your senior year results. So the availability of schools offering also differs, so you can check the schools if they offer EA or ED. So EA, not all schools offer EA, okay. So moving on to ED. So I'm going to go to the cons of ED first because the thing that majorly differs between EA and ED is if it's binding or not. So ED, so since EA is non-binding, ED is the opposite of that, it's binding. So if you apply to an ED school, that means if you receive an offer, you have to go there. You have to withdraw from all of other applications, and then you are that school's property like that. So the con is also early deadlines and no application flexibility, because if you receive an offer, you can apply to one ED and a couple EAs, you know. So let's say you apply to school A for ED and you apply for school B, C, D for EA. You get an offer from school A and school B, and then suddenly you like school B more, but no, you can't do that. You have to go to school A. All right. That's a bit about it. So for the pros of ED is a higher acceptance rate. Why? Because if you think that there's a smaller applicant pool for EA, there's even a smaller applicant pool for ED. Because basically you're showing your commitment to the school that you really want them. So also you get an early notification on decisions also. So just to put out there, that there's also this thing called restrictive early action. So some schools, like on top of my mind, like Stanford, Princeton, Yale, they have this thing called restrictive early action. So what does restrictive early action mean? So it still has the core of early action, which is it is non-binding. So if you receive an offer from them, you can reject it. So it's non-binding, but it restricts application to private schools, ED or EA. What does that mean? If you apply to Princeton's REA, you cannot apply to any private or any like Princeton, like Yale, ED or EA. But you can usually apply to public schools EA. So I think this is a beef between private schools that we'll just have to accept. So moving on to standardized tests.
So there are three categories that schools fall into. That's test required, test optional, and test blind. So schools that are test required, you have to do your SAT, ACT, IELTS, you have to submit it to them. It's part of your admissions, like your application, and they need it and they will consider it. So you need to make sure that it's done and you can get it submitted. Test optional schools have it as an optional addition to your application. You can decide whether you want to send it or not. So since COVID, there have been a lot more schools that have become test optional. And I think they might be rolling back on that, so they either become test required or they go back to being fully test blind. But test optional schools mean that if you think that you'll score well, you can take it and you submit the scores. If you do it and you don't score well, you decide not to submit the scores, that's fine too. Your application will still be complete, but it just means that the rest of your application will be weighed slightly heavier since there's no standardized test component of it. And for test blind schools, they just completely do not care whether you take it or not. It's not considered. They don't want to know whether you do it. They don't ask. And your application is just your application without the standardized test scores.
All right, thank you, Tessa. So moving on. So I think we already like fact dumped a lot on you guys. So I hope you guys can loosen up a bit because we're done with that. So we're moving on to prepping yourself. So if a lot of you ask, like, when should you start preparing for your application? So in an ideal world, if you ask any one of us or if you ask anyone who studied there before, people would say now. People would say like literally this second, literally you should have started lunch ago and things like that. But in a realistic world, I'm going to give you a realistic answer, is first to make sure that you have a schedule on what you want to work or study on. Work as in like application-wise and study as in like standardized test-wise, because we know that you have other responsibilities other than your application, so you have to make sure that you have your academic life balanced too. So that's that. And second, take tests early, so it's flexible if you want to take it again. So some of us are taking SATs in like August, and you can like retake it in October if you want. So that's a good strategy to do, because some people get nervous the first time. So like it's not that they can't answer it well, but they get nervous like me. So the third one is have buffer time to consult peers, counselors on your application before submission. So never finish your application like the night before submission. I know there's some success stories on that, but please don't be that success story, man. So have buffer time to not just consult on your like essays, but also consult in your application as a whole, how you organize your extracurriculars and such. You know? So next, so people say to just pick and choose your schools, but how do you actually pick and choose? So this is when I told you just now about safety, match, and reach schools. So this is especially important if you really want to get like a spot in the United States. So some of us are applying to like other countries, but there's also some of us that really just want to secure a spot like in America, right? So make sure you have like a good strategy on how to pick and choose your school. So first, what's a safety school? A safety school is 90%, is when you are 90% sure you'll get in. For a match school, it's when you're 40 to 60% sure you'll get in. And for a reach school, it's like when it's you're less than 30% sure you'll get in. So just to put it out there, schools below an admission rate of 10% are reach schools for everyone. So even if you think you're the smartest person in the room, it's still a reach school for you, like if you want to apply to like schools that have an admission rate less than 10%. So what does this percentage come from? This is actually like you set the percentage, but this is also by referring to like median GPA and academic testing, like that school accepts like what average SAT, what average, like what extracurriculars they focus on, and this is not just overall admissions rates like on Wikipedia. So just to like put it out there that the admission rates for international students differ from like the overall admission rates. So just to put it out there. So third, vibe match with not just the school, but also the requirements too. So what do I mean by this is like try to feel as connected to the school, because if you don't vibe with the school, they most probably don't vibe with you too, you know? So like if you don't like the school, who thinks that they like you back, man? So just like the dialogue here, like can't seem to have any luck on like SAT or IELTS exam, then apply to test optional or test blind schools. Or if you think that you want to do lots and lots of hand-on research when in your undergraduate years, then apply to research intensive schools. So like on a more serious note there, like when you do extensive research on schools, you will tend to have such deep interest in it, and you tend to like feel that you're a part of it. But the consequences of like doing extensive research on a school and applying to it is that, just to put it out there, the rejection hurts way more, guys. So next is like quality over quantity always. I don't think it's best to apply to 100 schools and like think because like you want to like get more schools offer back. Because like I think you should really focus on schools you really care about, and like you already do like extensive research on them. Okay, last but not least, I know like we've been like talking about money matters, but yeah, so this like there's like financial aid from not just the tuition fees, but also the application fees. So the red one is for application. So for UC, there's no such thing as fee waivers, because fee waivers are only for US citizens, but for Common App there is. So I think it's best for, if you guys are eligible, please do take it, because you don't have to pay for the schools you're applying to, and it saves them a lot of money. I didn't even like check my eligibility. Like, I'm sorry, Dad, if you're watching and you had to pay for all. So, for the scholarships, for the tuition fees, there's like university scholarships. Do check on it. Don't just check on like the whole university, but also check on like the colleges, like College of Engineering may be giving like out scholarships and financial aids. And also there's external scholarships, like organizations in Malaysia or even like over there. So this can also be separated into need-based and merit-based. So I'm under an external scholarship, and I got it after my A-levels. So if people want to like talk about that, can also like reach out to me later. So I'm under PNB. So yeah, last but not least, Tessa.
So the last part that we're going to be talking about is, now that you know when to apply, where to apply, and what you're going to do, the last thing to think about is what you need to do to actually get into the school. Like, what is your application? Okay, so US schools use a holistic application, which is a more well-rounded application. They look at so many different things, whereas your UK schools are more like straightforward. You've got your grades, your conditional offer, and your acceptance. So US schools, they've got your academic profile, your extracurriculars, letters of recommendation, lots of essays, like lots of essays. They look at your background, and they just want to they think that all of these things all together give them a better picture of who you are, like who you are, how you fit into the school. So the first thing, biggest of course, would be your academic profile. That's your pre-year results, IB, A-levels, ADTP, whatever you did before, your senior year especially. All those grades are something that the school will look at when they are deciding whether to admit you or not. After that, they also look at high school rankings. That's where you stand relative to the rest of your high school, all the other people in your graduating senior batch. They look at your rank in your class, and they also look at the rigor of the classes that you took. So they don't really compare it to US students because that would be unfair, but they do compare you to the rest of the people in your batch. Like, did you take the hardest classes available to you? What kind of classes did you take? Why did you take them? And they really compare this to other people who are also in your batch. After this, they've also got your standardized test scores. If you choose to submit them, if you're in a test required or test optional school, you've got your ACT, SATs. IELTS is usually whether it's passed or not, your score doesn't really make a difference. But your SATs and ACTs do, and it's part of what they consider in your academic profile. Next is your personal essays. So you've got 2 categories of essays. The first one is like your Common App essay. It's about who you are, your personalities, your values. Are you curious? Are you resilient? What kind of things have happened in your life that have shaped you? How do you think? What do you think about? All these things are things that you want to touch on in your general Common App essay. And then the second bunch of essays is your interest in the school. Like Sarah said, whether you vibe with the school or not. So you want to do your research. If you really do your research, you'll be able to talk about the school and why you think you'd be the best fit for the school. And when you really can communicate this to them, your admissions the person who makes the admissions decision will be more willing to have you in their school because they can see that you would be the right fit. So don't think of the essays as something that are just really stressful, but also try to communicate to the person who's making the decision why you would be the best fit for them to admit you to their school. So the next thing they look at is your extracurriculars. These are what you do outside of your time. Like, how do you spend your time when you're not studying? They want to see your passions, what you're doing, what you like spending your time on, your performing arts achievements, your sports achievements, anything you do outside of school, any competitions you compete in, like economics competitions, science Olympiads, math Olympiads, basically anything that is not held within the scope of your academics. Those competitions are still academic related, but they're not something that is part of your core school curriculum, and they want to see your achievements in those areas. They also care a lot about leadership, so if you have leadership positions, then definitely do list them on your extracurricular sections. So next, after that, we've got letters of recommendation. You've got 2 letters of recommendation. They're mainly to provide context on your overall academic record, your school and community involvement, to see how you were in your school and to provide like an outsider's perspective on you from somebody who's actually gotten the opportunity to know you, because your admissions decision person only gets to see you from that, and they want to see you from the perspective of somebody else who has actually gotten the time to know you. So that would be your counselor or some subject teacher that you like and that likes you, of course, because they would be writing the letter for you. And last but not least, they look at your background. This isn't a super important thing. Sometimes it's just marked as optional. So that's your cultural, racial, socioeconomic background. It's just to give them context about what you've achieved, what you've done. And they just look at this as an additional component to provide context on your application as a whole. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So we'll be accepting questions now, or from the floor.
You guys, yeah.
Any questions from the floor, guys? You can post your questions in Slido. Hello. All right, post your questions on Slido.
Or ask them, because when else do you get the chance to ask someone in person?
Yes, my guy. This wire is very long.
I bet you waited for this. Anyways, do you guys think early is inherently better than regular?
All right. So a bit of personal background. So I applied early to Johns Hopkins University because I'm doing life sciences, right? And Johns Hopkins was like the #1 school for that. I got rejected, by the way. But honestly, I think I don't know if I was like so bitter that I got rejected, but I was like, oh, maybe they only took like athletes for early decision and all. So, but it's not true. I think if you really want that school, I would like prefer you to like take it early. Yeah, I think that's like the short answer to that. Yeah.
When I applied to UMich, I actually applied early action too, but that's because I took a gap year. Like if I had applied my senior year of IB, I don't think I would have had the experiences and things that would have had made me ready to have a good application. So, I mean, it also depends on what you have in your application and how you feel it is, whether you want to apply early or you think that few extra months will give you time to have more experiences that will look better on your application for if you apply in the regular cycle.
All right, I got a couple questions, actually like a lot of questions from Slido. All right, one question probably quite practical or quite important. How do you convert A-level grades to GPA or AP equivalent?
A-level, sorry?
A-levels grades to GPA.
A-levels grade to GPA. So I took A-levels, right? And I don't know if you want to, calculate to GPA. I honestly put like in my application that my school didn't do GPA. I just put it out there. Like why would I assume that I'm a fourth letter, right?
A good rule of thumb for converting A-level grades to GPA is like A and A star is typically a 4. And B plus, B minus still like gonna be a 3. And then C 2 and so on. So use that metric. Some schools, they do kind of count that A minus as a 3.67, but ask your counselor. So some international counselors, if your school doesn't offer GPA, just say my school doesn't offer GPA.
Yeah, like your university admissions, like they literally handle all international students. So like, don't worry, like they understand.
No questions from the floor? Okay, how did you decide whether to apply early or regular?
The only reason I applied early was because I took a gap year, and like I said just now, if I did it during my normal, like when I did it during IB, I would not be able to apply regular for that. So if you're ready, then you can apply early, and definitely do it if you think you're ready, because you would have much higher chances. Okay, not much higher chances, but your chances will be higher as opposed to when you apply regular. But if you think that the odds are against you because you are not ready, then maybe you can wait till the regular cycle. So it really depends on what you think, like what stage you think you're at. Like, is your application ready? Are you ready to start writing your essays? How's your actual school, your IB, your A-levels workload at the moment? Yeah.
I think I also can kind of speak on that. Like early decision rate, acceptance rate might be higher relative to regular decision rate because, right, the recruited athletes, the legacies will apply early. So that's why there's an inflated acceptance rate. So you're competing with a more competitive pool, okay? So regular decision, you're competing with probably a less competitive pool. So, make a wise decision lah. And also, if let's say you apply to USC and EA, I think you're automatically considered in the scholarship thing. So, yeah. Sorry, got too carried away. Trauma. This is a bit personal, guys. What are your stats when applying? Are you guys comfortable with sharing your stats?
I didn't take those standardized test scores.
Okay.
For my AS, because we submit our mock results, right? So my mock A-levels was 3 A stars. But okay, and I also submitted my SPM. My SPM was a little bit personal, right? My SPM was 8A plus 1A. So yeah, and my SAT. So I only took SAT once. My SAT was 1490, but I did not submit. I did not submit my SATs because I thought it was like it's a damn good score. I know, but I didn't submit it for Berkeley because Berkeley was test optional, and I thought that 1490 put me into some kind of disadvantage because a lot of locals get like perfect scores, right? So yeah, I didn't submit it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So I took a gap year, so I already had my final IB results. I had a 42 out of 45, and I didn't take the SATs because I don't like taking tests. IGCSEs, I think I got 11 A stars for that.
Ooh.
But yeah, that's it.
Simple question, yes or no? Will your application be considered again during a regular decision if you were rejected during early? No. If you were deferred, right? If you deferred, then they will say in the acceptance letter whether you get deferred or rejected. Two different things.
Yeah.
Okay? Rejection is totally they don't want you. That was what happened to me for UPenn
Same.
ED. So if they defer to you, they're putting you into the regular decision pool. Doesn't mean they're rejecting you. It's just like, okay, amongst this pool of people, maybe I'll wait for you a bit. I'll consider for you a different pool of people. How do I ask teachers, counselors for recommendation letters if they probably don't have that much experience writing them? Well, any resources for them to refer to?
Okay, so personally, I put it out there. So during my batch in CAMS, so like we had like 200 people in the batch, and let's say like we have 202 people. 200 people were not, only 2 people went to the US at last. So it was really like, it was really tough for me and also the other applicant. So we literally like, for the recommendation letters, personally, like I feel you that like your teachers don't have enough like experience and all, especially if they are like more experienced in writing like UK personal statements. From personal experience, I was the one who sat beside them and actually like we wrote it together actually in a way. So yeah, so I really put in like that much effort just because like, I really wanted to go to the US. Yeah. Next one.
Anybody want to ask from the floor, guys? Come on. You guys came. Yes, thank God. Come on. I need wireless.
Thank you very much. My question is, how did you prepare your personal statement? Because that part is the hardest part. Okay.
Honestly, the only advice I have is to start, like, however you want to start, you just start. Look at the questions, start thinking of experiences that you can have and apply to these questions, and start drafting, even if it's just a rough draft, even if it's just points. Have like 5 different stories you can write about, and then you can expand on them later on, and then you can pick which one looks like the best. But you have to start, because if not, you'll keep delaying it. And I think the first draft is always the hardest. So once you have something out there, you will be more motivated to improve it and make it better. Whereas if you never start, you're just never going to start until the very last, like right before the application deadline. So it's better to start and work on it in small pieces than to just put it off. So that advice I have.
Yeah, and just to add on, like get help. Like you can get help from like your other peers, or you can get help from like the USAPPS team. Since you're already here, you can just like email us or things like that. And you can also get like external help too. So like yeah, there's like reach out. Yeah.
And one more thing, we have that book. I don't know if you guys seen that book on Instagram. The essays that got me into 5 Ivy Leagues and Stanford, written by Gai Yuen herself. She will be speaking tomorrow to lead that Crafting Her Killer essay. So be sure to stick around because she will take snippets from her book, right? The one that you'll be getting tomorrow if you come for 2 days. You only come for 1 day? We'll see what we can do. Okay? All right. One curious, wants to know about what is rolling admissions? Because what is rolling admission compared to the regular decision?
Wait, I'm not so sure actually.
I'm not sure which schools do rolling
Penn
admission,
State.
but I've heard
Penn
of
State.
it before. But like instead of having one decision where they just everybody has to apply by that point, they've got like they keep looking at applicants and you keep submitting applications. So they compare you. Maybe you can get waitlisted multiple times. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, they just keep rolling it over. So there's no one deadline.
Okay, another one. Do you think if I don't take a more internationally recognized pre-university course like IB or A-levels, I would have a lower chance?
So if you're not taking like A-levels or IB, then it would be like more like Malaysian centered, maybe like diploma and things
Like
like that.
ADP or...
Oh,
Yeah.
like if you take ADP, then you're destined for America, no?
is JC in this room? Or Mas? JC, you did ADP. Can you talk about a little bit about ADP and what the limitations?
All right. So I did take this ADP for 1 year, and basically, like for ADP, I would say it's a very almost one-to-one experience as a US college experience, because you're essentially just taking. You can pick and choose classes that you want to take, and those credits you get to transfer into like the American like colleges that you want to go. Usually some have like equivalencies, or some are like one-to-one transfers. Those are things that we can maybe talk about in detail later. If you want to know more about ADP, you can contact me personally lah. But essentially it's a very it's basically whole American. You start doing it in Malaysia instead. Yeah.
So the reason why a lot of us have to do things like A-levels or IB, whatever, is because our public education system doesn't give us the 12 years of formal education that most American colleges want, right? And so that's why STPM is considered as like the stepping stone. And that's also why things like if you finish SPM, you come into a place like Taylor's, they'll do like foundation year. That's essentially a 12th year that bridges between like your 11th year and your start of uni or college, which is effectively your 13th year. So locally, programs like STPM obviously is one. There's also the CIMP, the Canadian International Matriculation Program, that would also count as your 12th year as well. Then obviously there are the Australian programs, because if you think about it, I think there's a common misconception that if you take CIMP or any WACE, OSMAT kind of program, that you cannot go to America, you are destined only for those countries. But that's obviously untrue, because there are Canadian students who go to the US, there are Australian students who go to the US, and how do they do that? They do that with their year 12 results, effectively. So we take like, let's say OSMAT or WACE or whatever programs they have, you get your ATAR, you use those results, you still do the same things, you're still studying, you're still, you're using those as your 12th year of education to get in. The difficult thing about something like ADP or a diploma is that sometimes there are some American colleges that would see that as you having already started your university education, and they may not want to consider you as like an incoming freshman. They might consider you as like a transfer student, because they would have seen you as already having started your education. So let's say if you did that for 6 months and you weren't very happy with it, I would maybe not put that on my application. I might not put that on.
All right. I think we do last 2 questions here. I hear CS courses are real competitive. How did you get in? What do you think got you in?
My gap year. I did an internship in my gap year, and I think that really helped me learn more about working life, and that it was something big to put on my resume, especially since they kind of expect you to do things if you take a gap year. So it was something that really helped my application the second time I applied, as opposed to the first time when I applied to mostly the UK, the first time when I was still doing the IB. So during the gap year, I had more time to do the internship. That was quite a long, I think it was like 11 months, because it was just a whole gap year. And then I also found like fellowships online. I think nowadays they've got one called Head Starter. That's like a CSS software engineering kind of fellowship, and it will give you good experience if you want to go into computer science when you start university. So actually before, like during IB and before that, I never had any CS experience. So that gap year really helped, yeah.
Thank you, Tessa. Last question, perhaps both of you guys can answer this question. When deciding our university list, what avenues can we use to figure out the course structure, the research opportunities offered by the unis?
This definitely is accessible from the university's website. So from like university's website, and from like, they even have like specific websites for like your course. So make sure like you guys like go through that and go through like the opportunities and all. So yeah, that's definitely like the place you should go for. This is where like you do like deep research on your university, and put that in your essay, because like they know that, oh, you know so much about us and we want to know about you, like that.
Maybe.
Yeah, and if you have seniors, then talk to them as well, because like seniors from your school or anybody you know who goes to those schools, they would have a better idea of what opportunities there are and whether your school has any specific websites that you can use or they can share with you.
maybe one last question, yeah? How many schools should I apply to if I don't want to spend a lot on application fee?
I only applied to one because I didn't want to spend any on application fees.
Okay, so Tessa only applied to one and she got like her one school. While me, I applied to 7 schools, I think. But to answer your question is that apply to schools, like remember when I presented about safety, match and reach schools? So please like have some safety schools and have like a couple of reach schools like that to make sure that you aren't like splurging your money a lot. So my application, because I applied to the UK too, so I didn't have much safety schools because I didn't want to splurge my money on like safety schools when I already splurged my money on UK too. Yeah. So it depends on you. It really depends on like how you guys want to like maneuver that.
All right.
All right.
Can we give them a round of applause, Tessa and Sarah Magad? Handing off to the MCs, Nia and Kai.
All right, thank you, Asif. Thank you again, Sarah and Tessa, for their for the last sharing. Also to reiterate, someone asked about sorry, I think it's okay here. Okay. To reiterate, someone asked about resources. Do come tomorrow because tomorrow you guys will get access to the USAPPS Notion where you guys can get templates and checklists of like preparation for you to apply for university. So that will be also useful for you to send it over to your counselor so your counselors can, make reference and write you good reference letter. So Kai, do you miss home when you were in New York?
Nah, I got a family, Namsa with me the whole way. I didn't feel like I even left Malaysia. I have you guys know I didn't write the script, okay? I think it's worth if we call upon our Namsa rep, Putri Sarah, back on stage to explain the work that they have done, also as an acknowledgement to their support to USAPPS 2024.
Hi again. Long time no see, everyone. So I only have like 5 minutes to talk about NAMSA. So I'm currently NAMSA's external relations officer. So I'm just going to talk about NAMSA. So what's the full name of NAMSA? It's the National Assembly of Malaysian Students in America. So it's basically the Student Council of America, I think. It's like the place you go if you have problems. So what's our approach? What is NAMSA's approach? Our mission is to serve, protect, and advocate for the interests of Malaysian students studying in the United States of America. So let me just break it down a bit. So when we say serve, like we are sharing our resources because NAMSA receives quite a lot of resources and we like want to share it with all like the Malaysian societies. So that's that. And for protect, since we work under the Embassy of Malaysia that is headquartered in Washington DC, so we will protect you. So for advocate, so we are literally like the middleman between you, the future students of for like America, and also like the embassy and other like relevant parties. We can like bring like if you have like a good idea to give like to a corporate company, we can be like the middleman because like we have like a name. So this supposed to be an interest, I'm sorry. But 3 main interests that we develop is for professional development. So we make sure that after your degree in the States, you are like well equipped. We also have welfare and security. So we ensure that you are safe in America. And also we have culture and lifestyle. So settling down and all, we will try to help in that part. So United States of America, we cover coast to coast from coast to coast. It's so big. So the distributions of Malaysians currently, so we currently have 4,400 Malaysian students approximately. So most of them are focused in like California, and some of them are like in like the Midwest and such like that. So you think it's a lot of people in California, but actually California is so big, so we don't actually see each other that much. So we work very closely with other Malaysian Students Associations. So these are just some of our partnering MASAs. So the top there is like Ohio State. That is my MASA, MASA Berkeley. We have Penn State, we have Wisconsin Badgers MISA, we have Purdue PUMSA, and we have Michigan's MIMSA. So these are like, we work with these MASAs, we share allocations and such. So the recent events, we just had our summer alumni networking event. Some of like the USAPPS staffs are there. Some of you guys were also there. So this is where like the alumni of US universities share their experiences and share their like career development, and then they even like wanted to help some of us out and give us like internships and opportunities, which definitely is a good thing to have. So we also had our pre-departure that day, which we called Ready Ke Belum. So we just like make sure like everybody who received offers and who are enrolling in this fall, that they all have like their visas and all done. So we also had Temu Anoa last year in New York and San Francisco. This was a collaboration with NAMSA and also the embassy. So we got to talk with our beloved Prime Minister. So the upcoming events, so we have our Malaysian Cultural Night and Malaysian Sports Festival. So I expect USAPPS team to be there. So it's at Penn State in this November, so it's such a big event. And it's also an annual event, not at Penn State, it's like at other universities. So last year it was at Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, and this year it's like at Penn State. So if you guys are there, I would suggest you to like come and like, you know, it's so fulfilling to be around Malaysians, honestly. Yeah, I love Malaysia. So next we also have like this yearly like Khazanah National Berhad Info Session, cause Khazanah like wanna like scout us, I don't know, something like that. So we had one this year, we're gonna have one next year, and Khazanah also wants us to do some other competitions that they will sponsor and all. So that's like really interesting too, that we can like look into. So get involved, guys. So we'll see you guys there, and we hope some of you guys join NAMSA. Connect.
Hey, thank you, Sarah, for that very brief, for that very comprehensive summary of what NAMSA has done and like all the great works that they've done. So before we end our very long day today, thank you so much for being here and being engaged. We really hope you guys enjoyed us. And also for the ones streaming online, thank you so much for staying and asking questions on Slido. So before we end and leave this hall, we're gonna have a very last event or activity, which is the trivia activity. So may I call upon the core team to lead. So if Raja, Asif, or Ellison want to take over. There's the color coding thing on your shirt.
Wait. Yeah. So the winners or winner? I think the winner for this quizzes will get this shirt. Look at this shirt. Quite nice. It's not cheap, guys. It's not cheap. Trust me. All right. How are we gonna run the game, Allison? All right, everyone, just grab your phones, laptops, scan the QR code, and join the game, please. Yes, Fassies. But Fassies cannot win lah. Can proxy phone lah? Use the participant's phone. Amrit. So give a round of applause, guys. Come on. Two saja. Come on. In this room there's like 8. I don't like math. We literally have extra shirts right there, so you guys can just grab it. Wait, Victor. Tolong ambil. Can you get all the shirts? Are we still waiting for any? Huh? 5 minutes late? No, we're not. Are we? No, it's okay. We will stop at the same time. We try. Because if we're late at this time, we're fine. Because it's at the end. Okay? But people still have to go to. I'll show you. Depan, kiri, you've gone past all the major. All right, guys, we're starting the quiz in 3, 2, 1. Hey, don't cheat lah. This is not exam. Guys, don't look at people's phones.
Ariana's in the lead.
Who's Ariana?
Jeriel Riz. Irfan. Who's Ariana? You're in the lead. Okay. Hopefully, those at home are having fun, although we can't send you the shirts.
Guys, our class accuracy is 40%. That's beyond fail in American university already. Is it hard? No, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
Who is Jeriel Riz?
I don't think Riz is your last name though.
Apa sudah jadi?
Of course lah, Mount Fuji. Make a bet. Alright guys, we're ending the game in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, so wrap up your questions. When in doubt, just put C. Oh, good.
One minute left. If you're not done yet, you can still make it to the top. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're ending it. End. Let's see.
Drum roll! Oh.
Woo!
Okay. Is Shiraim? Shiraim in the building. In this room. Come down, man. Come down, man. May I know what's your t-shirt size? Sorry? Congratulations, man. Congrats. Hey, Carol. Carol, take picture. Hey, stand in the middle. Yeah. Everyone can see you. Guys, give him a round of applause, come on. So actually, this is just all sorry. Oh, okay.
Yay! We hope you had fun with that. It was equally as fun watching you guys freak out about this.
Before we move on to our next activity, can you guys please take 2 minutes to scan this QR code so that you guys can give us some feedback on what we did well in and what you can improve in. So helpful for us for the next call committee to kind of look and see where we can improve lah. So please take to fill in this form. Give us a thumbs up if you guys have finished doing the feedback form. Just a quick thumbs up. A show of hands, guys, again, please. A show of hands. Thumbs up. All good? Everyone good? Huh? Guys, you only have 32 responses. Where are the 50, 60? All right, guys, moving on to the clicker. All right, guys, can I get your attention, please? All right, so moving on, we have what we call a family group session. And if you guys were wondering what the hell was like the sticker for, it was for this. It all came down to this, guys. So we're gonna have 5 family groups, and we have our leads. So for those who are wearing white, we'll go into the basement classroom number 2. Yellow, go to basement classroom 4. Blue, basement classroom 6. Green, basement classroom 10. And pink, basement classroom 12. May I ask, give me a sec. May I ask Hannah Teo to come? Aizat, Putri Sarah, Victor Ngao, Mukesh Hazi to be in front so that they could see the leads. All right. Oh, we also want to thank the online viewers because you guys are not able to follow us into our family groups. So thank you for tuning in, and we hope that we hope that we will see you next year. All right, for family groups.